Welcome to Undercurrent. I'm your host, Lucy Nicol, and tonight we have some very exciting stories for you. First up, we're looking at Homo sapien sexuality and how this identified sexuality may or may not change as the person grows. Laura Novo has the full story.
Human sexuality has always been a very recurrent subject of study. Sometimes it can also be controversial, and such is the case of the story of James Packer, a man who went from being a homosexual activist in his youth to a married straight man in his adulthood. We are here today at the Ibis Hotel in beautiful Perth, ready to listen to what he has to say. Thanks, James Packer, for giving us some minutes of your delicious dinner. How are you today? Did you expect that level of attendance tonight?
Well, I'm delighted to see so many people have come tonight. Clearly, whatever happens, sexuality is something that we all have and affects all of us. And I think it's a hot topic of debate. So I'm just really pleased to see that a number of people have come here, not just to listen to me, but I hope to begin a very healthy discussion around this topic.
He's got a story that everyone should know about, and it's the story of many people who have experienced some sort of brokenness, and I just love him, and I love his ministry, and I'm very, very passionate about seeing people set free from all sorts of issues in their lives. And I just loved how he just brings very difficult and very, very often very personal issues alive in a way that everybody can relate to them, because we all have experienced some issues in our lives.
As Christians, we believe we have to pray for his strength, because for what he is doing, speaking out the truth, people will hate hearing that, especially people who are still practicing the homosexual lifestyle.
I love how James paints it as it's not an us-them thing. Look, we're all broken people, we're all born sinners, and we all need help from each other, and of course from the Lord.
I believe the man speaking is going to present his testimony, his life story, how he's come from a very dark and very dangerous lifestyle to love and family and children. With children, he is a great light and in this dark world and the difficult place it is for our children now. So thankfully, he has come to Christ and seen the truth and realised how important that is in his life.
Look, what I've been trying to say by being here tonight is that there are a lot of opinions out there. And sometimes it's very, very easy to turn around and say that things are black and white. But none of our life stories are the same. All of us have a different life journey and different experiences in our life. And therefore, it's important that every single person is approached individually. I believed and was told categorically for years that nothing about me would ever change. I didn't even go in search of change. The fact of the matter is, change has taken place. And there's more change still to take place. Of course there is. I'm not the finished deal. So I'm constantly saying to young and old people alike, please, please, please don't close the door on your life and think that everything is sewn up and finite. It's not. There's always new opportunities tomorrow. The most important thing is that we give people the flexibility and the opportunity to be able to discover these avenues. That's my point here tonight.
What impressed you the most out of the whole speech or the whole talk of James Packer?
I think that everyone has to be impressed by his brutal honesty. His story is authentic, he hides nothing, and in fact probably he convicts the rest of us to probably be more frank and more honest about our own journeys when we're interacting with others.
And as a politician, how do you feel about the plebiscite that the Malcolm Turnbull-led coalition government is going to conduct sometime soon after the 2016 election?
Yes, that obviously is a very popular topic at the moment, and it's an issue that has my support. The position at the moment is that the federal coalition has said that after the next election there will be a plebiscite, and the people will decide what the issue is. Should the usual traditional definition of marriage between one man and one woman for all of life, for the exclusion of all others, be changed, or should it remain the same?
we support families by providing a lot of good information and encouragement in how to raise families and what's good for families. And yeah, so we're really concerned about this particular issue too, because we know that marriage is foundational for families, for the security of children, and we know that where things go wrong, people can suffer from neglect or abuse, and so we're really keen to support family. And I know that from talking with James, I just find he has a very lovely way of being able to talk about this.
How would you define homosexuality today?
Well, I've come to learn and understand in my own journey, and this isn't just my journey, this is the journey of literally hundreds of people, even thousands across the world, whose stories haven't really been heard, is that we've come to understand that our same-sex attraction, as we call it, or our homosexuality, is the accumulation of a number of things. I actually applaud the World Health Organization for saying that homosexuality is not an illness. I don't believe homosexuality is an illness either, and I think that's actually a very derogatory, or it could be a very harmful term. So I'm pleased that we're actually able to knock that term away.
Homosexuality can be caused by many things, and one of the major triggers of homosexuality is sexual abuse. That is a very big one. I also know people who believe that they were born gay, and I'm not here to debate that. I'm just here to simply encourage people to question the relationship with God and to get to know Him as someone, just like we're talking right now, someone that they can talk to. So my passion is to encourage people just to talk to Him, just like you would talk to your neighbor, you would talk to your friend, and allow God through His presence to allow you to question some of the things maybe that you're into. Who am I to judge you, and who are you to judge me? We all come short.
I love Pope Francis, and I love his attitude because, what I'm saying is really clear. I don't see people as homosexual or bisexual or heterosexual. I'm not saying that people don't have same-sex attractions or bisexual attractions or they're questioning their gender or whatever it is. I think what we need to do is to meet everybody as an individual. And I think Pope Francis is saying, look, let's get out of these dusty corridors and start engaging with people's lives. That's why the Christian faith is so important to me.
They find it very dangerous for someone to say that I was able to escape such a dangerous lifestyle. They'll not like what he is able to speak out. But because of Christ in him, he is very courageous. He has, I believe, he needs support, but he definitely needs a Christian's prayer so that he is able to speak the truth. And it's all about loving him and loving homosexual people too, but just not the lifestyle that they live, because it's damaging for our children.
Sexuality, I think we're learning to discover, can be extremely fluid, particularly at different times in people's lives. There's an increasing number of young people today, I think particularly because of the effects of pornography and because they're being encouraged to try everything, where a lot of young people are saying, well, I'm bisexual. Well, I knew a very few people when I was younger who said they're bisexual. And what happened is they were trying a little bit and experimenting, but then later on in life they're married and they're settled down, they've got kids, and they're just saying, oh, that was just a phase I went through. Now we've got a greater number of people who are saying that this is the way they are. Who knows where they'll be in years to come? That's why it's important that we as a society don't turn around and categorically label people, and that we also continue to make sure there are right environments where people can discuss this stuff. This is the murmurings of the heart, the deepest parts of who we are. And to some extent, all of us maybe in our lifestyle need to be able to have a conversation about this. And more than ever before, these conversations are really urgent.
Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you, West TV.
Laura Noble reporting for Undercurrent.
I don't know about you, but that story certainly got my head spinning. Speaking of spinning, cyclists have a bit of a penchant for wearing brightly coloured lycra clothing, meaning that they're not usually that hard to spot, unless of course you're in a car. Angeline Tan found out this week that some cyclists seem to be having a bit of a problem spotting pedestrians.
Here we are in Victoria Park on Albany Highway at one of the most popular eatery strips in Perth, Western Australia. There are only segmented bicycle lanes in parts of Victoria Park, and today we go and ask the general public about their opinion on this and how they are affected by it.
I love the idea of a separate cycle path for the cyclists to get them off the road and get them off the footpath. I'm uncomfortable with sharing the footpath with cycle paths because today they're just doing it too fast and it can be very dangerous. They seem to have problems ringing the bell. And on the roads with cyclists, it is a dangerous thing, and I think the government's got to really look at cycle paths similar to what they've got in Amsterdam, where it becomes cyclist friendly and the cars can go where they need to go without killing anyone.
You know, they're talking about the amount of money that was put into, the government put into the building the cycleways, and they've made here, they've never joined them up. Only half has been done.
Yeah, I think the cyclists should be cycling on the cycling path, because when they cycle on the main road, it's very difficult for the drivers, because most of the time you have to slow them, so you have to follow them behind, slowing down, and people behind you are getting angry, and sometimes you have to go through the side, and when you go through the side, maybe it's too risky as well for the person who is driving on your right side. So I think they should be kept off of the main road from the motorist.
So how do you feel as a pedestrian when the cyclists cycle on the pathways?
Yeah, I think when they go on the side, when the pedestrian and the cyclist are on the same path, I think that's all right. And if you keep your left, because I walk a lot around South Perth, and most of the time I keep my left, and they come on my, and they either just beep and then I go on their right, or maybe they just behind me. I think they should cycling on the side with the pedestrian. That's all right, but not with the motorist.
And did you have an opinion on cyclists who go on the pedestrian walkways?
No, I think that's, as long as they are careful, I think that's quite reasonable.
What are your thoughts on cycling on the road or the footpath?
I suppose I have a mixed opinion on that because I lived half of my life in Europe, that being Belgium, the operative. So in Belgium they've got a system where on the pedestrian path as such, it's actually segregated, so you can ride your bike and scooters are on the same path, and the pedestrians on the other strip. So you don't get a lot of riders. I think there's two categories of riders. You know, you got your sort of your social sort of going for a bit of exercise ride, and then you got your pathological riders. You know, who are more. You see them a lot more on the road. But as far as like the general sort of riding conditions here in Perth, I think they've improved incredibly.
So here in Vic Park, do you prefer to cycle on the footpath or the road?
Footpath, definitely. Yeah.
Because it's safer for yourself?
Absolutely safer. Yeah.
I've seen so many accidents, and it's not good. People, I don't know whether they just want to show off the uniform or they're wearing. They cycle on the road. It is a beautiful. Where we live in Bassendean, it's like 30-minute drive, but you can cycle on the footpath. It's beautiful from there to Fremantle, but people cycle on the road, so that's very, very wrong.
Thanks for watching our segment today. I'm Angeline Tan, reporting for Undercurrent.
Now it's time for a short break to hear from our sponsors. I suggest you stay seated during the break to avoid the risk of running into any cyclists. Welcome back to Undercurrent. Now, our First Nations people have been creating art for longer than we know. However, selling this art to a Western market is a relatively new idea. This week, we went down to Fremantle to see a wonderful art exhibition called Our Land, Our Stories. I'm here at the Early Work Gallery in Fremantle. Tonight's show is called Our Land, Our Story. So Anna, congratulations on the exhibition. What do you hope to create here? What have you created?
Well, I think we've created a beautiful show, which I'm a little bit in love with actually, because it's what we like to do is make cultural connections, right? These artists are from a long way from Fremantle, so they're from the APY lands, which is the Pitjantjatjara, Yunkinjatjara language groups, which are in the northern South Australia desert and the West Australian desert as well.
So you've travelled up there yourself?
I've been to one of the communities, yeah. So they're very important stories about the land and their ancestral stories. So it's the dream time that's been passed down for years and years and years. We titled the exhibition Nangapa Nura Nangapa Jukapa, which is a Pitjantjatjara words for our land, our stories. So really everything that you see on the wall here are cultural maps, they're cultural stories, and they're stories that have been explained to children as soon as they're born, as soon as they're old enough to understand. That's how they learn their country, and that's how they actually sort of know their tradition and get all the survival skills as well. And this has been happening for centuries.
But you helped put all these pictures together. How did it go, and how have you put this?
It was a long time, a long process, and I was quite anxious about some of these works because they are very important paintings by very important artists, and some major pieces of work, and so you have to be very careful about handling of these paintings and stretching them. So, yeah.
So what brings you down here tonight?
Well, I've always really liked what Artesia present because they bring not only the art but a really good understanding about where the art comes from. So I've always been impressed by the way this gallery presents the art. I came to one of their art parades a few years ago, and it just blew me away because it gave me an understanding about the art that I never really had, and now when I come I can see it in a very different light.
It's incredible because it reminds me of the original dot paintings that Geoffrey Barnden, an art teacher who went to Papunya and started the whole system going, and the original artist. This painting reminds me of that because it's such a clear statement from the artist of the night sky, and I think there's a part of it where there's just a drift through on that on the left-hand side there that is absolutely spectacular, I think.
When I arrived here tonight, I asked what she thought of things. She said, I've bought a painting very like that one up there, and when I were already looking at it, so I thought we should get that too. And I think it's a wonderful piece. I mean, it's very like the early Papunya paintings rather than the later kinds of ones, and I think just fantastic art quality and wonderful story.
It leaves a lot to the imagination too. Yeah. You know, you can see the ocean, the mapping of the oceans and the earth.
And the sky.
It's got that earth colour too of the Pilbara and the Kimberley in it.
How do you think the art industry for First Nations people is changing in Australia?
The work styles themselves have really changed, and I think that a lot of Indigenous artists are actually looking at other really unusual mediums. So a lot of obviously digital work is coming out now. That's what people are playing with. There's lots of social media stuff that's actually happening. And people are steering a little bit away from painting, although that happens in communities a lot because it's a very transportable resource. People are doing printmaking, people are doing sculptural works, lots and lots of installations happening around the country, and particularly large-scale public works. So I think that's a big shift as well.
So you've seen some beautiful paintings here tonight. I'm Lucy Nichol, reporting for Undercurrent. Tradies is the colloquial term we use here in Australia for our tradesmen and women. It's guaranteed that we've all needed tradesmen around the home at some time or another. The question is, just how well do we contract with these tradesmen? Laura Novo talks to the streets of Perth to find out.
Do you know what to do first before hiring a tradesman?
Not really. I have to search online first, and then maybe I find someone handyman.
No, I wouldn't, but I'd probably consult with friends that are tradies and get advice.
I would probably look online, ask around my friends and stuff, and see if anyone knew of anyone that was a tradesman or that they'd recommend.
Not really. Go on Gumtree and find him, Yellow Pages, stuff like that.
What would you first check if you were to hire a tradesman?
I would check that they could do the job that they claim they can do, look at other jobs they had completed in the past and talk to people that they'd worked for to see that they were efficient, effective and were good at what they claimed to be.
Just to see if they've got qualifications in doing that, because I've had trouble where they hadn't been qualified, and just to see if they've got any references.
First thing I'd probably ask is, do you have a certification and can I see it? Because you hear a lot of people that they get work done to find out afterwards they're not, or the certifications be withdrawn.
Give me a quotation.
Could you ask him to write that quotation in a contract, or a verbal agreement would be fine for you?
No, verbal agreement's worth the paper it's written on.
I'd be happy with a verbal agreement if the job was agreed and we knew what was happening, yeah.
In writing, yes. So there's no argument at the end of the day when the bill comes in that you know exactly what you've paid for and what you haven't paid for and what the job was that they employed you, what you employed them for.
And what do you think that you could specify in that contract?
What I could specify in the contract is the limits of what I would spend, the circumstances under which it is covered for, the period of work which is covered and what things may go wrong with it. And that's about all I can think of.
Would you check if he has a license, if he has an insurance?
Yeah, I probably would, yeah. Most likely not. Probably not.
And if you have any problems with your tradesman, would you know where to go to lodge a formal complaint?
Obviously, first I'd start with the tradesman, and then if he were a member of a trade body, I'd look at the trade body and thereafter go for the local council.
I'd Google it, but generally, you know, for $150 or $200 or whatever you've been screwed over on, you just make sure that no one else ever uses their services and you never use their services again, because sometimes it's more effort to chase up the issue than it is to actually just walk away from it.
Do you know what is the percentage you have to pay as a deposit out of the total amount? Can you guess?
I know it's not 50%. I learnt the hard way on that one. It should be 10%.
I'd assume 10%.
It's not more than 10%. Yeah.
So by law, you only have to pay up to 6.5%. Did you know about that?
I'm cheating myself, no.
Yeah, now I know. Thank you.
Our final story tonight, I would argue, is the most controversial of all. Laura Green investigates whether Melbourne is in fact the best livable city in the world.
Melbourne has once again been named as the world's most livable city by the Economist Intelligence Unit.
The city received a near perfect score of 97.5 out of 100 when rated on the areas of healthcare, education, stability, environment and infrastructure, and culture. Melbourne's culture is one that is thriving and seems to have something to offer for most tastes. For the foodies out there, Melbourne is the culinary hotspot. Thousands of amazing restaurants, funky cafes and trendy bars can be found throughout the city and the surrounding suburbs. For those of the sporting persuasion, you will find a number of major sporting events held in Melbourne throughout the year. Melbourne also has a lot to offer in terms of the arts. The city itself is rich in beautiful and historic architecture. It has gained international recognition for its vibrant and colourful street art found throughout the city. And performers from all backgrounds and abilities are encouraged to showcase their talents in the city streets. I've taken to the streets to find out from the public what they love the most about the city of Melbourne.
I know I love the parks, you know, I love the greenery. I love the people around Fitzroy.
Yeah.
Really good, hippies and stuff like that. I love Frankie.
Probably like the shopping and the restaurants and that, like cafes, like that whole culture.
I'd have to say the weather. It's nice. Reminds me of home.
I just think it's bigger. I kind of, Tasmania's very small. It's nice to have the options, I guess.
People. I think, as I said before, the cultural diversity, great restaurants, so many activities, festivals, gigs. Yeah, it's a great city.
I'm Jessica Green, reporting for Undercurrent.
That's all, folks, for tonight's show, but it's okay because it appears Christmas is just around the corner. And I will be back here with you next week on Undercurrent.